That maybe. Gotta ask him. I can take his fence down.
Yes.
Yes.
Senator?
Not quite yet.
Almost.
You should be good to go, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 9th, 2025 EP Town of Newington Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay, roll call of Commissioners Norrie.
Yep. Commissioner Fox,
Here.
Commissioner Harvey,
Here.
Commissioner Minor,
Here.
He's online.
Commissioner Nafis,
Here.
Commissioner Pascarelli,
Here.
Chairman Tobiaski,
Here.
Commissioner Woods,
Here.
Commissioner Blackman,
Here.
Commissioner Watson.
She's online.
He's there.
Okay, you're all set.
Thank you. Mr. Planner, approval of the agenda.
No changes?
Okay, thank you. Next is public participation for items not listed on the agenda.
No one online has their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yep, and Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add that at the second public participation, there will be a presentation tonight. It's on the agenda for the town center master plan. And on
Okay,
the second one, for anyone listening along online, that public participation is allowed on that item and it's specifically stated on the agenda.
and the second, okay, thank you. Okay, zoning officers report. Everyone has a copy of it. Is there any questions? All right. Here, none. We'll move to remarks by commissioners. Any remarks by the commissioners? Commissioner Minor, Commissioner Wakoma? Any remarks? No. Okay, thank you. All right, public hearings. Paul?
All right. Eric, do you have the notice printed out?
I do not have the notice printed out.
Okay, so I will go in and grab this notice. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. Yep. Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission, notice of public hearing, July 9th, 2025 at 7 PM. Notice is hereby given that the Newington Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing in the council chambers, room 103 at Town Hall, 200 Garfield Street, Newington, Connecticut, on Wednesday, July 9th, 2025, to consider the following petitions. Petition TPZ 2512, special permit sections 3.11.1 and 3.13.0 for a modification of TPZ 2418 to change the use from seasonal to year-round place of recreation indoor pickleball courts at 175 Lowry Place, aka 103 to 175 Lowry Place in the BTC Business Town Center Zone and the Town Center Village Overlay District. Applicant contact Jim Berta, owner Lowry Place Realty LLC. This public hearing will be a Zoom hybrid meeting. Information on how to attend will be posted on the town website. Link follows. These petitions and related materials are available for public inspection at the Town Planner's Office, Town Hall, room 204, and through the published agenda on Town Plan Center, Zoning Commission Agenda Center. Link follows. Persons who require an accommodations to participate in this public hearing should contact the town planner at 860-665-8578 or town planner at newingtonct.gov, not less than 24 hours before the public hearing. Submitted Paul Dixon, town planner. And this ran in the rare reminder, June 28th and July 3rd.
Okay.
And the public hearing sign was up.
Okay, yeah, I know, I saw it. Got hit once.
I fixed it at least
You want
twice.
to read this, Jim?
Okay, public hearing. A, petition TPZ 2512, special permit, section 3.11.1 and 3.13.0 for modification of TPZ 2418 to change the use from seasonal to year-round place of recreation, indoor pickleball courts at 175 Lowry Place, AKA 103 through 175 Lowry Place, in the BTC Business Town Center Zone and the Town Center Overlay District. Applicant contact Jim Berta, owner Lowry Place Realty LLC. Application received 6/11/25, 65 days to public open hearing by 8/15/25.
Is the applicant here?
Yep, so I will say that the applicant, Jim Berta, he was called away on something, but he does have his partner, Quinn Howe. He discussed with me on the phone that Quinn is authorized to represent him tonight. And Quinn, if you're online, you can unmute yourself and kind of give your presentation, your name, your address, and your affiliation with the use.
Hi, guys, this is Quinn Howe. I'm the majority stakeholder of Blaze Pickle. My home address is 65 Emily Road in Marlborough, Connecticut. It's just been a pleasure doing business in Newington with Blaze. You know, we gave it a shot the first year as more of a seasonal business. And we quickly realized that, you know, the community and the support that we've gotten, you know, people want us to be there year round. We've got a good summer program going on currently. And we're hoping that you'll allow us to stay kind of long term. That's the future of Lowry Place. So I appreciate that.
All right, is there any questions?
So just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, just, we have, since they've been operating, we have received no complaints of noise, parking, or any other issues that I'm aware of. So.
Yep, and the hours that they presented in their narrative were Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and private events as scheduled.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to
That's
speak in
correct.
fit? Sorry.
Oh, he just said that's correct, yes.
Okay. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this? Anybody online?
And we got one in the room, and again,
I'm
anyone
sorry?
online, if you wish to speak, you can raise your hand. and we're on-
Gail Draco, 21 Isabel Terrace. I just want to say that I'm very happy that apparently this has been a success. I was a little concerned for the owners in the beginning because it is risky. Opening any business, the location, although it does fit with, I mean, it has the parking, it has the, you know, the space that it occupied. But again, you know, it's not, you know, Northwood Plaza is, you know, has been kind of dead for a while. So I had a lot of concerns for the business owners. But I just want to say I'm very, very happy. I walk by there, bike there a lot. You know, the crowds are there, but they're not, you know, hanging out outside, you know, making any problems. I was pleased to see the summer programs, and I certainly hope that as it continues to grow and be successful, that maybe it'll attract some businesses to Northwood Plaza that might be in harmony with the current use. So I support this application.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No one online has their
Okay.
hand raised.
Anyone wishing to speak against this petition? Okay, hearing none. Any commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Harpy?
Yes, they reference in here that, this expansion of time and building, is mirrored after a project they had in Guilford, or still have in Guilford, Connecticut. Is that still in operation, and what would be reflected here in Newington that you have in Guilford?
So, yeah, I can answer that. Guilford was kind of our test market. That was a short-term lease with no possibility of extension. So that was just a 10-month lease we had down there, just to prove concept, to see if we could get into a vacant building, quickly open up an operation and run a fall and winter successful pickleball season, which we did down in Guilford. We had over 2,000 members and we're really successful down there, but we just didn't have any sort of longevity with the lease. It was simply a short-term lease. Walmart or Target ended up taking the space and renovating. So with our idea in Newington was to kind of replicate what we did down in Guilford, but to also have the kind of the strings attached to you know, hey, if it works for the first 9 or 10 months, we'd like the opportunity to stay there long term and really build the community out in Newington. And so, you know, this winter and fall and into the spring were very successful. And so we decided that we would talk to the building owner about extending the lease, and we want to make it kind of a long-term play in Newington. So more of a test in Guilford to figure out if the business could succeed down there, and then to see if we could replicate it again in Newington and then scale it more long-term. So that's where we're at now.
Okay, and just as a follow-up to that, have you met with the fire department again as well? Is that accurate to say?
I don't know. I got to talk to Jim. In my understanding, we have not since our initial opening back in the fall, but that's something I definitely can schedule, and we can meet with them again just to make sure we're still good to go there. Something I can do this week.
Thank you. Paul, do you have anything on that part of it?
Yep, no, I don't believe they have, but typically, you know, they've been approved for their building permits. They've kind of already been there. The only change here is temporal. It's to say it will continue operating how it's been operating. It was inspected prior. It'll get its normal inspections as a place of business, whether it's a 1, 2, or 3 year inspection by the fire code, depending on the use code. So it will continue to get their normal inspections, but yes, they would not have to file a new building permit for just going from seasonal to full-time.
Well, congratulations on your successful operation.
Thank you so much. Hey, I've got one more question. I don't know whether you guys can address it now. I know when we first went after the seasonal kind of temporary, you know, zoning through the board, we ended up not really doing any sort of signage. With that being said, we did put signs kind of on the inside of the windows. If we wanted to move forward with more of a kind of a bigger sign out front, what would I need to do in order to get that approved, or what kind of paperwork would need to get filled out? Maybe that's for a different time or a different conversation, but thought I'd ask.
Yep, but since you asked, I'll answer.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Sure.
may, that I did actually note that in the in the staff report. It is in the town village overlay district, which does control signage, and it's under the TPZ's authority. Depending on what you're proposing, again, there hasn't been anything proposed tonight and nothing kind of forwarded, so there's nothing to kind of opine on with signs.
Yep.
That it might be, you know, again, not necessarily a special permit, but it might be more along the lines of town and village overlay district. We look at that, bring something to the commission, have a discussion. The biggest discussion is going to be about whether, you know, that there is a prohibition for internally lit signs. So that'll be the bigger discussion. But yes, you would come to our office, we would look at the sign, and then we would likely bring it to the commission, whether either under a staff report or under a full application.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Wonderful.
Any other
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Hoffman, Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Nathis? Commissioner Woods?
Is there any plans to improve the facade of the building? So right now, you still think you're going to the grocery store. As a standpoint. So the signage would obviously help, especially if you put it on the front of the building. But I don't know if there's any plans in painting.
Yeah, so
modernizing.
yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, as we progress kind of year after year, or even after seeing kind of what this next year brings, we definitely want to keep updating the facility. I will tell you on the interior, we still have some of the old grocery store signs from, I think it was Best Market was there before, and we get more compliments about that than anything. So we'll probably keep those. But it is really cool. Yeah. But now that we know that we're going to be kind of hopefully there for the long haul, there's definitely improvements we want to make with, yeah, maybe some of the facade, definitely get a sign. Yeah, just keep updating and improving and making it a little bit nicer, definitely on the inside.
You know, along with that, site improvements, Jim, to this, it still looks like I don't want to say abandoned because it's not abandoned, but it is. I mean, it's a higher level of maintenance right now that it's receiving. It's much higher than in 5 years, 6 years. I still would call it great. So I realize that I'm not the only. I think if we can, we strongly encourage to get the
And I would
I
say,
know a street grant, right? For, that street? For sidewalks,
I'm
actually.
not-
That's
Yep.
changed.
so yeah, a proposal, yeah, exactly. And something that, if the master plan kind of go,
But that's something we could do with a steep grant, correct?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that we would look at improving in the future. And I would be to work with the owners to apply some upward pressure to, get the area spruced up a little more.
Other than that, congratulations on your success. The signs inside, by no means, it's cool, it's retro. You need to change the outside of the building. It needs a grocery store. My personal.
Yeah. I agree. We're just waiting to get this approved and I think
The average
that'll
person
be the
has,
next step.
yeah, the average person
Yeah.
has no idea what you're doing in there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
that's
been a
why you-
challenge this year,
any
so we're gonna
questions?
change it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Minor, Commissioner, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
No question.
all right. All right, having said, stand a motion to,
So move, Mr. Chairman.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I'm sorry, and and we'll move this tonight.
Yep, it's already under new business, so
okay.
when we roll into that, it'll be there.
All right, yeah, we can do that. All right, go roll and go. It's
So let's see.
TPC.
What do we got for?
Actually have approval next.
Yep, so it'd be the approval of minutes is the next, and then into new business.
Oh, okay. Motion to approve the minutes. Any,
So move.
Second that.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? All right. Now go. Old business,
New
you
business.
want to do 25-12 first, Paul, or,
Yes.
okay. Petition
Okay.
25-12.
So petition 25,
Well,
special permit, section 3.11 and 3.13.0 for change from seasonal to recreation at 5 Lowry Place, AKA 103 through 1 Lowry Place, TC Business Town Center Zone and Center Village Overlay District, applicant Berta, owner Lowry Place LL. Application received 6/11/25, 65 days to open public hearing by 8/15/25. To approve the application TP 512, reasons for this minor modification meets the requirements of the zoning regulations and the special permit.
all right. Make motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is petition 25, 11.
Okay, so, Z 2511, special permit section 3.17.8 for a used motor vehicle sales and service use at 115 Payne Road in the PD Plan Development Zone. Applicant contact John and Contro, owner H&M Property Holdings LLC. Application received 5/28/2025, 65 days to open public hearing by 8/1/2025.
So I'd like to just provide a quick update. And again, I have provided a motion. The applicant is not here tonight because they're getting updates to their plans. Due to the time frame, I have an email that's in front of you regarding kind of, I asked them, as it's noted, it's 65 days to open the public hearing by 8/1. By publication, we would not be able to publish it for the 23rd just because of the dates in the paper.
Yep.
So they have consented to an additional 12 days to bring it to the 13th. You have an updated staff report that kind of notes what they've changed. They've kind of changed the amount of cars, changed it down a little bit. They provided a map showing where the cars are located, but they're going to provide some more information about how the cars will be parked inside and how the use kind of works. So the applicant was planning to be here hopefully at the next meeting if they have that information, and then the public hearing can be set. So staff recommends acceptance of that additional days in the motion and it be tabled until the next meeting.
Move to accept the applicant's consent for an extension of the date to open public hearing to 8/13/25, 12 days, and table application TPZ 2511 until the July 23rd, 2025 meeting.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is petitions for scheduling, Paul.
Okay, so Eric is gonna hand out the petition we have received. So the petition we have received is the petition TPZ 2516 site plan for a 40-unit rental apartment home development under Connecticut General Statutes 830G affordable housing application at 220, 226, 244 Kitts Lane and 226 Kitts Lane rear in the BBT Business Berlin Turnpike Zone. Owner applicant Kitts Lane Apartments LLC, contact Timothy Hollister. And again, the application is received tonight. So what I would like to discuss with you is I have been, this is for scheduling. I have been in contact with the applicant's representatives. We have kind of tried to work out a time frame in this and working with, again, with our representatives, with our attorney as well. Ideally, we were looking at kind of that date of receipt today, 65 days to open the public hearing by 9/12/25, 35 days to close by 10/17/25, and 65 days to decide by 12/21/25. While that 65 days to open is 9/12, I've discussed with the applicant, and the applicant would ideally like to come in on 8/13. So that would be not next meeting, but the meeting afterwards. It provides about 4 weeks in between to kind of get some comments to the applicant. That's what we're working on staff level. Again, this is provided for you tonight. Again, and as part of that too, we did discuss with them whether they would like to come in. Again, this is the TPZ's prerogative to schedule ultimately, but I've been working with the applicant for them to come in again on that 8/13 day and do the full presentation during the public hearing. Ideally, that's, you know, the public can get the entire presentation. It's on the record. That would be kind of that plan. If the commission is comfortable with that, I did ask them whether they would like to come in for the next meeting to do kind of a brief overview presentation, kind of acceptance meeting. The reason why they don't have a presentation tonight is, again, this was received last Wednesday on a holiday weekend. Just getting the information out into the packet. Again, it's received, but we didn't have it in time to put it onto the actual agenda to be heard tonight. So this is something for the TPZ to consider regarding scheduling. If you're comfortable with scheduling for 8/13 for the public hearing, you can either tell me tentatively that you're comfortable with that tonight, but also on the 23rd, you will also have the opportunity to set the meeting at that date. Again, as I noted during the earlier application, it's one of the unusual ones where we actually have a gap of 2 weeks in between the two meetings just because of the month switch and the days, rather than 1 week where we can't schedule it in that time. So again, this is kind of just for scheduling that we're talking about right now. And I'm gonna want to hear the commission's pleasure on that.
All right, any questions? Commissioner Harpy.
For the public certification, can you explain the CGS 830? I know Griswold came in under that, and that developer did a nice job. I think the Dakota is the second one that we did under, but if you could just, so the public understands.
Yep. So in the application, and I will say for the public too, the application is up on our current land use applications. All the materials have been posted online and are available for public inspection. They're also being available for public inspection in our office as well. So Connecticut General Statutes 830G is the affordable housing application statute ultimately. There's a lot of parts to it, but what the applicant is proposing, and it's in their application, is that they're applying for a site plan under 830G. 830G has language in it regarding that a site plan, or should I say affordable housing application under 830G can't be denied just on zoning alone, more or less. I'm paraphrasing, but that they're coming in with that for this application. It's working with the town for the site plan review for primarily health and safety items. Again, it is a appeals process, but the court has held that a site plan can be submitted underneath this process. So that's the kind of direction that the applicant has applied.
So, and I'm not suggesting this would ever happen, or wouldn't happen, if this body denied the request for other than, because I know safety reasons aren't accepted very well by judges, so the state would then override our zoning and let him do the project. I know that's a simplification, but
Yep. So, and I encourage people to actually look at, it's chapter 126A of the general statutes, and I can include that in future staff reports. But what it does is there's two remedies. If it's denied, the applicant has the ability to come back with a modified application. That modified application, if I believe correctly, has to be decided within 65 days. If a public hearing is held during the original application, which is proposed in this case, that a public hearing would be held during that 65 days. They have that option to come back with that modification, or they have the option to appeal to the courts. And then it would be a court case.
under that statute.
Correct.
Now, the original one, I'm not sure I was on the commission at the time when you were discussing it. Was it 30% or 30 of these units would be?
Yep. So the requirement for 830G is that 30% of the units have to be preserved for 40 years. Of those 30% of the units, half need to be, so 15% total, but half of the 30% need to be at 80% AMI, and the other half needs to be at 60% AMI. Those are the requirements to meet the threshold for an affordable housing application.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Woods.
Just to answer your question, Paul, I see no reason that we shouldn't be able to schedule this for the August 12th meeting.
Yep. I have a question. Has the fire marshal, has the fire chief looked at this?
Not yet, but we will be doing all internal reviews in between this period and set public hearing.
I know at one time he was not happy with hammerheads, so I'm just asking. Because I don't want to see any damage to our equipment or to this development.
Yep.
So,
And again,
Okay.
we will be reviewing it for health, safety, grading, all of those normal items that we review under a site
And-
plan.
do we send a copy of this to the police department also, or they don't need to review this?
I think we'll be gathering an internal review team.
Okay, that's all I'm concerned. All right, thank you, Paul. Any other questions? All right. Okay.
So it sounds like, again, it's on there. There's nothing to read as motions
Yeah.
or anything like that, but
Yeah.
it sounds like tentatively schedule that, continue to work with the applicant.
No, I don't want to really voice an opinion. Anybody else have an issue? I agree with Steve. So,
Yep, again, I'm putting the staff under a little pressure to get the review done, but we do have some time. Again, we will continue to work with the applicant. Again, that's always staff's goal, is any applicant to continue to work with them through the process
Right,
to get the best product for future residents to actually live in Newington.
as long as you have the time, that's my concern, because I know you're snowed, so to speak. Okay, any other questions? Okay. That town planner report, which we will go into the center business, center area, right?
Where's the popcorn? Yeah, now the fun part, right? So I will bring that up and let's see, TPZ.
this is kind of a repeat of,
It'll be a little more, it's similar, but it'll be a little more focused. It'll be a lot of the same materials, but focused more on a lot of things, kind of TPZ related questions. So I'm gonna bring up. Come on. There we go. We'll share it. And then Kimberly, feel free to come right up to the mic. And I'll bring my computer over to you.
I was gonna say, I can give you a remote.
Oh, that'll work.
So I wanted to say next.
And your voice is better, Kimberly, tonight?
I think so, yes, medication.
You have the help screen. Okay. Go. Share this. Share. You. Full screen. There you go. Here we go.
Eyes in the back of my head.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Kimberly Baptiste with Colliers Engineering and Design.
Thank you.
Did you want to start with anything, Paul?
Yep, beginning. I thank Kimberly for joining us tonight. We recently had the public workshop, number 3. Was well attended, a lot of good comments. And again, we're here primarily tonight with a very similar, because some of you were able to attend, not all of you were. We do have the video now posted. I'll be putting out a news flash tomorrow with a video from that last meeting. And also to remind everyone too, on the project website, where all the past meetings are, there is the presentation, there'll be video, and there's also the meeting summary. So if anyone wants to kind of go into what happened, what was discussed, that is a very good resource. So tonight, we're really here to kind of go over kind of the plan. It'll have a lot of the same elements, but I would like to kind of focus the discussion on really what's going to impact the future zoning for this area. Kind of the bulk, the layout, the concepts of the uses. Is this something that the TPZ does support moving forward along with the community as a whole? And then where do we go from here with zoning? If you have specific questions about zoning, to kind of give us some guidance again, because the goal is we will be doing a draft plan first, and that draft plan will be out for comment. And then we will have a final plan after the comment is held on the draft plan. But the TPZ will have a big role in the future on this master plan, primarily because the Hartford healthcare property being zoned public land, a lot of these improvements would need that to be rezoned, and that'll be a large contemplation for the town of what that zone will be. And our goal is again to get out ahead of someone coming to us and saying, this is exactly what we want to do, to inform developers, this is what the town wants to see, and how can we make this vision come to reality together?
Thank you, Paul. And I will jump right in. And for those of you that did attend the last public workshop, some of this will be redundant, but hopefully for some of you will be new and informative information on the status of the town center master plan. So jumping in, just want to give a quick status update on where things are. So this slide is just synthesizing and summarizing all of the community engagement that has been integrated and taken into consideration as we've developed plan recommendations. So we did have 3 public meetings, one of those being a design charrette. We did 2 online surveys. The first online survey was at the front end of the project that were broader, big brush visioning questions. We received 655 responses to that survey, which is a really fabulous response rate. The second survey went out after the design charrette. It was a much longer survey intended to replicate the 3-hour in-person design charrette. So we did get 155 responses to that, which is actually pretty impressive because it probably required people to sit down, take 25, 30 minutes out of their day to respond to the survey. Oh, did I jump ahead? Sorry. It's skipping slides on me. So just from an overall perspective on timing, so we are at the stage where we are really kind of refining the master plan and coalescing it into the actual master plan document. So the master plan document we'll be submitting to town staff by the end of July. Once town staff has the chance to review it and provide any initial feedback, we'll share it with the steering committee, who will have a chance to review it and provide feedback. And then we will share it with the broader public for that public review period. Okay, so jumping into the master plan. Early in the process, based a lot on steering committee as well as public feedback, we did define 4 overarching design principles to really help guide the master planning process. I don't know, does this sound like an automated timer?
No, I think it's just a little lag.
Okay, sorry. So the 4 design principles, offering multimodal options, so making sure that the town center is safe, welcoming, comfortable for cars, pedestrians, bicyclists, all user groups, all modes of transportation. Creating opportunities to really prioritize human interactions, so getting people on the street, engaging with one another, creating spaces and places for human interaction. Providing a mix of uses and functionality. So that's very important to creating a vibrant town center, is having people that are not only coming in for a specific use, but that are recreating and living within the town center area. And then making sure that all of those spaces and the opportunities to interact within the spaces are safe and welcoming. So this is just what we call a vision board. So throughout the process, we've asked community members the types of amenities they would like to see within the town center that would make it more attractive to them, so they could come and spend additional time in the town center. So what we heard from community members was they'd love to see more shade, more street trees, more outdoor programming opportunities within the streetscape and public spaces, more outdoor seating, more opportunities for special events and various programming. So creating some additional flexible spaces for those types of uses, incorporating public art, greening existing parking lots, and providing more shade opportunities within the town center. This graphic is a visual representation of the physical master plan. So the physical changes to the town center. Anything that you see in that orangish yellow color is essentially new development within the town center area. So you can see significant opportunity for growth and development along Lowry Place, Constance Lee, as well as the Hartford Health site. So I'm going to dive into those in a little more detail. I'm going to talk about Constitution Square fairly quickly. Again, recognizing the goal really to focus on maybe those areas that are more zoning oriented and related, where enhancements in Constitution Square are really more public oriented projects that may not directly tie to specific zoning recommendations. But within the Constitution Square sub-area, we essentially created 3 sub-areas associated with the project. Constitution Square, the area north and south of Lowry Place, and then Hartford Health being the 3rd sub-area. So within Constitution Square, our recommendations focus on enhancing gateway and intersections, again, creating kind of a strong entry into the town center area, but also prioritizing pedestrian and bicycle safety at key intersections, prioritizing pedestrian connections within Constitution Square itself, looking at opportunities for some targeted infill development or redevelopment of strategic sites, expanding the Constitution Square green space, and looking at opportunities to reconfigure parking to both maximize and increase the availability of parking, but also to improve the flow of parking overall within Constitution Square. So just a couple of visuals to give you a feel. So this is the vehicular entry from Cedar Street into Constitution Square, where you're looking at, some public improvements with signage and landscaping opportunities. You can see the opportunity for new redevelopment in the background. This is kind of that same view, but I would say a stronger approach with a larger, more monumental sign to really acknowledge, you've entered someplace special, or here's the gateway into someplace special. Part of what we are looking at is creating a consistent, cohesive hierarchy of signage that would be used throughout the town center. So throughout each of the 3 sub-areas, that would really help brand and create a strong identity for the town center. So this is just a sample hierarchy of wayfinding signage. I spoke about pedestrian connection. So this is your existing alleyway connecting Main Street and Constitution Square, and shows what some simple improvements with landscaping, lighting, some additional seating can do to make that space welcoming and inviting. This is an existing, it is privately owned, but the existing, I would say, turnaround area off of Market Square. And this is how it exists today, a fairly underutilized space that could create a really strong connection between Constitution Square and Market Square. And this is just a reimagining of that space. Again, looking at those items that the community stressed is really important with regards to shading, seating, lighting, creating new public spaces. As I mentioned, we did look at some opportunities for infill development on both vacant sites, as well as opportunities that current property owners have said and identified as targeted for revitalization. So you can see potential building footprints and build out that would be consistent with the existing character and scale of buildings today. We did look at Constitution Square and the expansion of the square to provide a little more flexibility with regards to special events, programming, creating a enhanced public space within Constitution Square. So this iteration shows an additional 4,000 square feet of green space, which does eliminate 23 of the existing parking spaces, but we actually pick up some additional parking spaces as we looked at some of the parking redesign, and I'll get to that in just a moment. So this plan is showing reconfigured parking through Constitution Square. So there's an abundance of public parking, but there are also today a number of disjointed and closed off private parking areas. So this reconfigured parking plan is really looking at opportunities to provide stronger flow and connections between the public and the privately owned parking areas, creating opportunities for shared parking agreements, and looking at kind of creative parking solutions in Constitution Square. Jumping to Lowry and Northwood Plaza. Again, the focus here was really, or Lowry Place, sorry, Northwood Plaza. Looking at reconfiguring Lowry Place, looking at potential reuse and future uses for the Keeney building and the vacant parcel at the end of the Keeney site, with infill development, and then the potential for revitalization of Northwood Plaza. So from a streetscape perspective, this is the cross-section of Lowry Place today. As you're all well aware, it is a very, very wide roadway with limited accommodations for pedestrians and bicycles. One thing we heard abundantly clear through the community engagement was the desire to do a road diet on Lowry Place to allow for better accommodations for pedestrian and bicycle circulation and connections, which also has the added benefit of reducing traffic flow as well. So this cross-section shows the potential future opportunity along Lowry Place, which would look at reducing the drive lanes to 12 feet, which is consistent with best practices for roadway design. They can actually go down to 11 feet per travel lane. This is a safe width for emergency vehicles. We have been noted to look at and evaluate the opportunity for a bus pull-off on Lowry Place as well as Constance Lee. So that's something we'll also look at and consider. But this allows for maintaining the sidewalk on the south side of the road, adding some green buffer, and installing a 12-foot multi-use path on the north side or the Keeney building side of the roadway. This is the plan in plan view. You can see the Keeney building. Our focus is really on maintaining the existing building, and recommendations really focusing on targeting future uses for the Keeney building itself, and then really focusing on some site enhancement opportunities. what we heard from the community for uses that they would like to see in the future in the Keeney building really are a wide range of kind of retail and service-oriented uses that could both benefit local residents, but also appeal to bringing more people into the community. So specifically retail in the retail spaces along Main, but when you think about the larger building itself and some of the significant spaces available within that building, ideas included an indoor market, performance space for dance classes, dance studios, business incubator space, food hall and marketplace that could include breweries, cideries, an artist collective, and the potential for indoor recreation. So as we start to think about zoning amendments, one of the things we'll be considering and talking about as it relates to this particular site is potentially reducing some of the allowable uses on the site to really focus more on trying to attract the types of uses that are desired by the town and the community as a whole. We also looked at the vacant parcel at the end of the Keeney building owned by the same property owner and looked at potential for infill development on this parcel. So you can see, again, right, these are hypothetical footprints just to kind of understand potential build out. But what we're showing here are two mixed use structures. The mix of apartment units that are shown on the screen, again, are hypothetical, just based on some initial market analysis. This site is showing in the pink box additional parking that could become available on the existing Keeney parcel if parking were reconfigured, restriped on the Keeney site to help support parking needs for the vacant parcel. So we really looked at these two sites together as opposed to breaking them off as two separate individual sites. Northwood Plaza, we've broken down into 3 redevelopment phases, recognizing kind of the long-term nature of this type of master planning. So the first phase is really focused on site enhancements, which was, discussed at a high level earlier in this meeting, but really looking at facade improvements, looking at some landscaping and greening of the streetscape to soften how it relates to the street, and then some additional greening of the existing land or the existing parking area. The second phase of redevelopment would look at retaining the existing enhanced plaza building in its current configuration, but adding additional building structure along the street. Again, what we heard from the community was they desired no more than 3 stories of construction and really liked the concept of a setback between 10 and 15 feet from the roadway. So wanting to create that stronger street edge. So this iteration includes 2 mixed use buildings as well as a public plaza gathering area. And then the third phase would be full redevelopment. So this is looking at retaining those mixed use structures along Lowry Place, but then ultimately replacing that existing plaza building with the multifamily residential structure at the rear. Just some imagery to help kind of visualize what that looks like. So this is the plaza today before the signage was taken off for the market. But this would be phase 1 with just some of those greening enhancements, signage and facade improvements. And then phase 2, which would show that mixed use build out along Lowry Place. Again, looking at 3 stories height and about a 10 to 15 foot setback from the roadway. Looking at it from the full corridor perspective, this is how the corridor looks today. At build out, this is what the corridor would look like in the future. So with the changes to the actual roadway, as well as build out of the vacant site on the Keeney property, as well as build out of the Northwood Plaza site. So then we move to Hartford Health. And we've kind of broken up the improvements on Hartford Health into public space improvements, as well as kind of development program. So public space enhancements, again, are responding to kind of the majority of the feedback that we did receive from the public about what they see as important priorities to take into consideration as Hartford Health is redeveloped in the future. So the first being retaining and constructing a multi-use path on Constance Lee that would connect to the new multi-use path on Lowry Place. So really creating that continuous system within the town center that really prioritizes bicycle and pedestrian mobility. Open space preservation, where you see the numbers 2 on key areas of the site. Some of these are existing vegetated areas. Some of these are areas where construction of new buildings would be challenging anyway due to topography. 3 is the potential relocation of the dog park and the potential for maybe some minor recreation opportunities. Number 4 is depicting a greenway corridor that would go from Constance Lee and connect through the site up to a new trailhead and connection to Cedar Mountain, which was identified as a key priority during public engagement. And then 6 is depicting potential small-scale sports courts to really support future residential development in this site. The development program includes maintaining the existing data center that exists, and it's depicted as number 1. So we did have conversations with Hartford Health. They indicated as they move forward and look to sell the property in the future, the data center will not be part of that sale, and they have no intention of releasing the data or relocating the data center anytime in the near future. So for the purposes of this planning effort, we have retained the data center. 2 is depicting active adult cottages. So this would be 55 plus cottage style residential units. 3 would be a multi-family 55 plus residential unit. 4 is depicting townhomes. And where you see the number 5 would be in the future mixed use development, potentially along Constance Lee. But we see that as a further phase farther along than any of the residential development occurring on this site based on market need and demand. So just diving into those a little further, the active adult cottages. So again, the 55 plus cottages, these would be for sale, owner occupied cottages. Strong demand based on the market analysis. We did also talk to a number of local developers to really ground truth the market analysis, and they indicated the 55 plus residential development continues to be a strong target for this region. But again, just the program is just a hypothetical, but within the existing space, you could fit about 65 cottages. What we are calling the active adult multifamily and wellness complex. So this would be a 3-story structure that included both rental units for 55 plus, as well as the opportunity to incorporate other wellness options. So a health center, doctor's offices on site, lounge spaces, potential kitchen spaces on site. So this would allow for about 100 units within the building, multifamily for rent units for 55 plus additional square footage for other complementary uses. There are some interesting models across the country of that type of development that we've looked at and will be including as kind of a reference point within our master plan document. And then the townhouse development. So again, these would be owner occupied units, and you could get upwards of 100 units within the site in addition to the other developments. And these were not intended to be age restricted. So part of what we are doing is looking at financial feasibility of potential build out within the town center. There is a gap based on what we're looking at now. We are still talking to some local developers to make sure our estimating is accurate based on recent market trends, to make sure we're getting as close to reality with regards to the financial feasibility as possible. But it does look like in order for these developments to truly pencil out from a developer perspective, you would need some level of public support or public investment to help offset and fill some of that financial gap. So next steps, in addition to kind of the physical master plan, our team is working on, zoning, policy, planning oriented recommendations. We'll be developing those as well as the implementation strategy for advancing recommendations within the town center master plan. And as I said, within the next 2.5 to 3 weeks, we will be delivering a draft plan to town staff for review. So with that, happy to open it up and get any feedback and discuss.
Any questions? Commissioner Hoffman?
One thing I'm curious about is we're in the process of putting up an awful lot of apartment buildings right now. Varying sizes, lots of, maybe up to 1,000 openings. They really think that we could fill all of those around the different areas, that you've got the 3 different areas? Because it just doesn't seem like there's that much need, except in lower income. People who are just trying to get into a low range house. And some of these may not be for them. But I think that's more what I would see would be pertinent.
We will be looking at phasing because obviously the market can't support all of this at once. But the market analysis did indicate very strong demand for senior housing of various types. It did identify the need for multifamily market rate housing, and it did identify the need for townhouse development. So the market is indicating that there is still demand. And in talking and again, doing that ground truthing with some local developers, it does sound like each of those areas still remain very strong in the region, and there still is adequate demand in the region.
In multifamily, you're talking about parents and kids?
Multifamily would be apartments type development.
Okay. So nothing really, other than if you have maybe 1 or 2 children, there's nothing for anybody who's got more than that.
Right. This would be, the apartments, and then the townhomes would be more family oriented.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Fox?
Not right now, just the chair.
Commissioner Harpy?
I think Mr. Nafis had his hand up.
Just that same, what Peter was kind of talking about there. Some 25 or 30 years ago, a while back when I was president of the chamber, we've been looking at these spaces for long before that, I believe. Well, so we always had an idea, or at least some of us did, of the potential for like a business park up in that area. The businesses in town liked the idea because that would bring people in during the day to come in and use their business. And was that part of it must have been part of your analysis, obviously.
Yes.
But market doesn't.
The market does not support the business park office model at all anymore.
Okay. It's been a while.
Yeah. COVID changed that market dramatically.
Yeah, all right.
I'll say Commissioner Nafis?
Yeah.
Commissioner Pasquale?
No, I saw the presentation. I was at the meeting. I think it's, really cool that so much of the town people gave feedback and it's all being sort of incorporated and thought about. I'd be very interested. I'm very, this is an exciting concept project to be a part of.
Commissioner Harpy?
I want to thank you for the time you put into this with the town. You guys have spent a lot of time, and this guy down here spent that, so we thank you for that. What we've heard, the general statements maintain a small town character. So I think on what you presented is impressive, but I don't think it's consistent with small town character. And whether or not small town character should go to the top of the list, I'm not making an argument for anything on that. But I know in the past, many of us who, including Mayor Woods down there, was involved with the town center And to get the landlords to agree to certain things, you had to do a novena before that. And then they might agree to something, but we finally got through the parking lot. But I don't, given the traffic count, and I know this may be an old fashioned argument, but given the traffic count on Cedar and in and out of the streets of Newington right now, I think the people mean what they say when they say maintain a small town character. And when they talk about local owned businesses, those are all small entrepreneurs. They may own the building, but most likely they have rigid landlords. And that could change. I know money can change a lot of things. But right now you have some that just aren't gonna, if they don't see, common sense, if they don't see an economic benefit, then that issue is gonna move on. So I think that's a challenge. I'm not saying it can't be overcome and times change and money changes. But I agree with you, that would take one hell of an investment as a roundtable, whether it's a grant or referendum or eminent domain. I think that 52 acres that sits out there is a nice target for eminent domain, but I don't know what they would get per acre to make that happen. And the other building understands a disaster where the Children's Hospital, former Children's, a disaster with PCBs, and that thing would probably be, and I'm sure you recognize that would have to be raised. And I'm not sure people are ready to become West Hartford Center, which has done a nice job, but it's busy all the time. I mean, there's really, you have entrepreneurs there, but they're in the original part of the layout. So I think that's a challenge. I think Keeney is a challenge just because the building dealt with a lot of environmental things inside the building. I'm not criticizing the owners or whoever owns it now, but that's a task to go through and get deep to agree to that it's ready to go. That piece of land, I believe, belongs to a guy named Bubba Holden, who's a son of the original owners. And we approached him, and when I was involved on the council, we approached him to do something. He would, I don't know what he has in mind for it, maybe the highest bidder. I'm not sure what he has in mind for it. And as you know, administrative services controls most of that 52 acres. I mean, I don't think they have an idea. I was with Connecticut Development Authority for a number of years. I can tell you they don't have an idea. That's not what they're paid to do. They're paid to hold assets to make sure that things are going down. But I think you have a very cooperative governor right now. And I think he's a businessman, and I think he would be good to work with, or his subordinates to work with. But yeah, it's all a challenge, but you've done a great job on some options here. I agree that it would have to be a phased-in project, the center first. But if you stalled there, you have two other options to move on to, Lowry and the other thing. So you have a lot of variety. Yeah, I compliment you on the comprehensiveness of the report. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Woods go first. Mr. Woods? Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things, one pretty small, but I picked up on it in the Constitution Square parking lot. You've eliminated that communal dumpster area that we have. Is there plans? Because I don't see it.
There's a new dumpster. There are two dumpster areas,
I didn't see them on the plan.
northwest corner and then by the senior
And
housing.
then, 'cause I think it's a promise that we made to those landowners when we kind of merged all that property together. And the second thing is, I love the walking trail, bike trail. But can you show it so that it kind of connects to North Mountain Road? And I don't think you do. You connect it going down Constance-Lee, but there's an underpass to get you underneath that to bring it to the regional center. I think it would be important for people to see that connection.
Yep.
Now you've got a path that's 2 miles, maybe 3 miles long.
And that came up at our public meeting. We just haven't, and that's something we will reflect on the plan that we didn't have a chance to update yet. Thank you.
Yeah, all set?
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, again, as I also want to thank you for all the time you're putting in. Said I think the only other person I know that puts in that amount of time is sitting over there. Even just being with us twice a month. But I have to agree with just about everybody, especially Commissioner Harpy regarding the small town. I like the idea that in the center, traffic seems to have been rerouted. And I know like on Market Square, Lowry Place being, looks like you're taking some of our suggestions about making one way or just, prohibiting traffic. And I agree with Commissioner Hoffman that all these apartments, I mean, we already, I know it's going to be a long time before all of them are done. But even right now, every time I see somebody says, what are you guys doing with all these apartments? So, to put up some more, number one, number two, I've always kind of been upset with our downtown, mainly for the type of architecture. Now, consider the old firehouse. This is 1860s, middle 1800s, which is when we started, 1872? 1871 was incorporation, and when we were starting. So right now, you go through the town, one into the other, especially in the center of town, you've got a whole mess of different architectures. And I can just see any developers of these apartments, whether it be public or private, putting up apartment buildings that look like Mill Yard, off the turnpike, and the one further down Payne Road. Very plain, vanilla, not very attractive, not to me anyway. So, I think maybe you ought to keep that in mind. And I just lost my last thought. So anyway, that's what happens from, when you get to be my age and Agent Orange kills you. But those are my comments, and I'll probably figure out what the other ones were at about 3:00 this morning.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you.
Before I get to you, Commissioner Harpy, I'd just like to check with the other two
I'm
commissioners
good.
online.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Wakoma, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just would like to say that I think this is very impressive and inclusive planning process. And, when I look at this, I think it's important to think about the future of Newington and what will attract especially younger people to want to continue to live here if they're currently residents or coming from other areas. And I think this type of planning is really important and reflects what I believe younger people will be looking for in the types of communities that they prefer to live in. So I think it's a very impressive plan, and it certainly has a long range view, but I think that's important for the community to begin thinking in those terms. So it's exciting.
Thank you. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My personal opinion is the strongest component to the whole plan that was presented is the 55 and older component, and be it rental or home ownership. I think there are quite a few seniors, and now with a 55 and older, and myself in that range now, I would, look forward to staying in town where I've lived for the last, 18, 20 years, and be able to continue to stay here, allowing a young family to replace myself in my current home. So I think there is extreme value to that, and the price points on some of the 55 and older that I've seen, regionally and some locally, is extremely high, to the point where there's little benefit to cost of selling your home and downsizing to almost the same comparable cost of ownership. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind on that part of it. The second thing, I think Keeney has some tremendous opportunities. Whether it's, food halls or, brewery, I think that would tie in nicely to continue to maintain the small town feel. I do have similar concerns that the rest of their counselors have brought up that I'm hoping we're not overdeveloping. And quickly off topic, Paul, I know you had reached out to both 550 and the Pike for updated occupancy numbers. I'd be curious to see where those numbers are trending, and as well as Milliard to see if there's been any updates to that, to see if we're actually filling what we're building. So that's all I've got for now.
Yep, so say I haven't gotten those numbers yet. Again, but the Milliard two was in the moving up towards 75%. It's about 73. The Pike, we have not gotten much from them yet. I will continue to look at that. And 550, they haven't given us specific numbers, but anecdotally, I've seen a lot more cars and actually coming out of there. So that is good that they're starting to fill those, fill that complex.
Good, thank you. Kimberly, I think you did a great job. I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far. I am on the steering committee. I have a couple of questions. Have you worked on other projects like this in other towns or areas?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe you could get some information to Paul, give us some idea about zoning changes in this area. It would have to be a flexible zone or something like that. I did, like I says, I don't really want to handcuff anybody into this, in the zones we have now. The other thing is, the type of trees, you're not going to recommend it. That's going to be decent. It's going to be, is that, you're going to recommend that, or is it going to be us?
I mean, that is up for debate. If you want recommendations, typically we would identify some species that are appropriate for the climate, recognizing you get snow, you get cold weather, the amount of space that is available and what species tend to survive and thrive in those environments. So typically we would make those recommendations if you want them.
And the other one I have is snow storage. We do get snow up here. I'm sure you get it down in New Jersey too. But is there enough area in these designed places to store that snow, or would this be something that the developer would have to truck out? I'm just curious, that's all.
And I think that would depend, right? Depending on, is there space in a existing parking lot or is there not? I think those would be dependent on kind of build out and final design of each of the sites.
And I got a question for Paul. Did we ever get an answer from Hartford Healthcare as to what they're going to keep? Are they going to keep Cedar Commons in there?
Yep.
Or
So
are they going to keep, and the data center? I know they say they want the data center there, but is Cedar Commons separate from that?
yeah,
Or is it all the
yes.
same
So
complex?
they haven't, Jefferson House and Cedar Commons, there has been no discussion from them regarding any changes in plans. They seem to be doing well. And I actually do find this plan interesting because it actually works well with it. It's kind of a continuation of a district, off of those uses. Just kind of blends together, and it's kind of interesting how that does come out. Now, what a developer will do at the end of the day, and when we work with them, I think again the goal is this is the vision, and we need to work towards that vision with them. But yeah, there's no changes in that, and I actually see this as potentially enhancing those uses, so it could be helpful for that area.
Well, I'm just wondering, because all I keep hearing is that they want the data center, but every time I ask the question, even when we had the workshops about the Cedar Commons, I didn't get any answers. I'm sorry, Commissioner Woods.
Yeah, there's mixed information coming out on that too. And I understand fully that you're getting that the data center is staying. Meanwhile, I'm being told that there's already replacing the data center and they're planning on moving out. So who knows, right? But right now it's off the table, stay off the table. But again, I think the catalyst for us, we've got 52 acres that opened up. Never thought it was going to happen. Every time Hartford Hospital was approached, or Hartford Healthcare now, it's not for sale, not for sale. We're not doing anything. Well, it's for sale now. And I think it's off the market, but only until we make our decision on what we're going to do. So I think we need to have a vision. And again, what you have here, it's great, but we don't have any idea if it's gonna look like anything like this, you know? And that's the problem when you do something like this, you drew in streets, you drew in buildings, so they become real. As soon as you draw them, they become real. And then the other thing that happened, Keeney went out of business, was a 98-year-old company. You know, the two owners, the two brothers just said they got an offer they couldn't refuse and sold out. And God bless them, they hardworking, gentlemen, they did a beautiful job building a great business. Actually, it was one of the first women-owned businesses in the area. Mrs. Holden stayed in the area. They live in Weathersfield and Glastonbury. But I think that's opened this up, and it's what we do with the parcels that we have some control over. The streets, we could do streetscapes, so enhance some of this. And I know that we seem to be troubled with apartments. I think we need to wrap our hands around. People want to live in apartments now. I don't get it, but as fast as we build them, they're moving in. My company probably didn't do an apartment in 35, 40 years. It's probably done 3,500 to 4,000 years in the last 5 years. And as fast as they build them, we actually had one, I don't know if I told you the story, but we're out working on a 300-unit complex, apartment complex in Simsbury. Same developer owns 125-foot housing next door. He could put you in the housing development for mortgage cheaper than the apartment. They want the apartment because the younger generation, they're not going to get a job and stay there for 35 or 40 years. They're going to, and I'm just preaching here. They're going to get a job and they want 3 to 5 years and they're going to move on and they don't want to have to worry about selling the house. And God forbid we have to sell the house in a market that's sold. I'm going to lose money. You know what? I'll pay the 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, you know, whatever size apartment they have. And they're happy with that. They don't want to. The only thing that we're missing here that I would love to see, a grocery store, you know. Maybe something could work out in Keeney. I doubt it.
That'd be great.
Grocery store would be key, because now you really have a walkable community and people don't need the car. We have a bus, right?
And for seniors.
Yeah, and the seniors.
And a couple of the case studies that we looked at for like that 55 and older active wellness complex include market, so smaller scale groceries within kind of that complex to serve the residents, but could certainly be open to the public too.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a Stop and Shop,
Yeah.
just someplace you can get milk, eggs,
Yep.
you know, the staples. But again, I think it's a good start. Hopefully working with Paul and Eric, we can get this to the finish line.
Right.
I think your hardest problem is that it's a vision. You're not selling this, you're selling the vision.
Yep.
There could be apartments, there could be this.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Minor has his hand raised.
Yes, Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, one thing I was questioning, is there still any market demand? I'm reluctant to call it assisted living, but living for seniors with a little bit more in terms of either meal prep, housekeeping, that sort of thing. I know that there are some developments, you know, locally or, you know, regionally. Is there still a market for that, or is that kind of faded away?
That's what Cedar Commons is.
It's independent living, you can transition.
Yep. And I would say even to like what you have for that wellness complex, that can flex. Again, it's that key thing. This is a vision. And I think a lot of things, and it did come up during the public workshop meeting too, is a lot of it comes down to like the individual parking spaces. We're looking at a larger vision, but the key thing about the vision is if this is a vision that's agreed on by the community, then with the zoning, we make those things easy with the zoning. The hardest part on zoning is when everything's a special permit use and everything's discretionary, developers, that doesn't really work well. Like they have to like really work hard or gamble. They feel like it's a gamble if they come in, if they feel like they're going to be pushed out from this or that. If there's a vision that's agreed upon by the community, it's something we can look in our zoning and make it clear to those people who would like to build this that, yes, you're welcome. We've kind of figured this out. There might be some tweaks, but these are the uses we would like to see, and they're encouraged in this town. So when they come in, there's a little less risk. As we know, like, development applications, large ones can be quite expensive. They're six-figure applications at the end of the day.
Any other
Mr.
question or
Chairman?
comments before I go to public?
Never mind, I just wanna make sure you didn't forget the public can speak on this. I know, I heard you.
Okay.
Yep, and we can either do it now during public participation. It's kind of a
Let's do it now.
free-flowing one where I think now is
I want to see
okay.
if anybody wishes to speak
Okay, good.
on this issue. Anybody in the room? Anybody at home?
Nobody has their hand raised online, Mr. Chairman.
Nobody? Anybody in the room?
Rose Lyons, 46 Elm.
Come on up, Rose.
Back here.
I would come on up, says, I had the experience of what happens in this room when the mic isn't all the way around, so I will ask you to come up, please.
I'm walking too good today.
State your name and address for the record, please.
It's permanently recorded. Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I came in a little bit late, but I wanted to get over here. I was with the legislators over at the senior center and catching up on that, but I have not been able to attend the workshops. I went to the first one and things, but the main thing I liked, and because it's my age, is the vision for the Hartford healthcare area. I know for a fact that of the 25 houses on my street, which is in the north end of town, which are small capes, ranches, things like that, although young folks, including my daughter, have been in apartments, they don't want a house, she's not married, but once they find a partner or they get married, start having kids, on my street alone, there's at least, I want to say 10 families that have moved in the last 3 or 4 years, had children, took these small houses, put $50,000, $60,000 into them, and are happy in a small cape with 2 bedrooms or whatever, as opposed to being in an apartment. So I think looking to the future, like I said, the street that I'm on maybe has 25 houses and I'm probably the oldest person on the street, and it goes down from there. But kids now, and I agree with Mr. Commissioner Woods that they're going to be in a job for 5 years. They're going to bounce around. My parents came to Newington, lived on Elton Drive. I grew up on Elton Drive. My daughter grew up on Elton Drive. That's not the case right now. How they pay the money for those apartments is beyond me. It's crazy. I was here when Mayor Wright had his vision for the center. And I think at that time there were 13 studies. I'm hoping that this study is something that people can wrap their heads around, agree with, and not put up a fuss when you start making changes to the zoning. Because we're tough nuts to crack here. You know, we're set in our ways, and I just appreciate all the work that you've done. There's been a lot of thought put into it from what I can see and listening to people around town. And appreciate the efforts and hope to see something happen in the area. Thank you.
Somebody online does have their hand raised, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
You can go ahead, Mr. Rodriguez.
Hello, Jeff
Yeah.
Rodriguez, 1307 Main Street. I've been to all the public meetings, I've filled out all the surveys. I just want to say, I think that this plan, this vision presented is a safe vision. If anything, I don't know that it goes far enough. I think during the public meeting, there was a good point raised that you need the people living in the area to support the type of businesses that you want to see. During all the public meetings, there was all sorts of ideas thrown around of different amenities for all the different areas. And I just think this is safe. I don't know if it really has enough housing to make it profitable for a developer. And I guess the other point I want to say that was also part of the public meetings was that everybody talks about the apartments. I think the good thing about what's presented here is they really focused on owner occupied housing or townhouses, condos, whatever, not just rental units, which is, you know, a good lower cost option to get into a dwelling that you own rather than just rent. Yeah, and one other point, I think I brought this up at the previous public meeting, that the green space presented in this plan is natural green space, which from my experience in town, natural green space just means overgrown and full of litter. And I have that same worry with this green space in the plan. Whereas if it was a manicured green space, a public park type of thing in Mill Pond, it would be maintained better. And not the overgrown areas that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Eric?
Nobody online, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Move on to documents. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. Thank you very much, Kimberly.
Move on to documents, Paul.
All right. Yep, so, did you take back over?
Yep.
Good, all right, so still my screen. So again, we have, again, these were all the documents on the town planners report for this. They're in your packet. The public can see them as well. It was the staff report, just telling you what we're here tonight for, and the public meeting presentation and some Q&A. You can see that was included in your packet. I can say that too, that questions and answers that were part of that public workshop are now incorporated, and it is uploaded for the meeting summary does have those questions and answers in there as well. And again, anyone who wasn't able to go to those, I do recommend going into that meeting section on Newington Town Center. Very simple website, newingtontowncenter.com, where you can go to the meetings and see all of these on there. Other than that, the next item is the current land use applications. As I noted, the application that was received for scheduling tonight, all the information is up there. Anyone who reads this, is listening to this video afterwards, you can go to that site and see all of the application materials. And that's what I have under town plan report.
Thank you, Paul. We have the CROG letters in the packet. I'm gonna go for a second round of public participation in case anybody wants to say anything else. Anybody online?
Nobody online that has their hand raised.
Anybody in
Mr.
the room
Chairman.
who should say anything? Okay, thank you. Remarks by commissioners. Commissioner Harpy.
Yeah, I think as we go through comprehensive plans of development and an extension of that, of what we received this evening, that at some point, we're gonna have to develop a harder look at the need and a financial model that would fill that need. And the acceptance of those two. Because we're gonna disappoint ourselves on a regular basis. And those who follow in our seats will be disappointed as well. Reaching out to a point where the financial model isn't gonna be there. I know cities like New Haven, Bridgeport, and others have done tax incremental financing, where the developer can share in the cost of the project from the tax revenue. It was done on the Colt project, which took forever to get done. There are avenues to follow, but I'm not saying it's our responsibility. I know it's not our responsibility to do that. We should be the dreamers. We should be doing what Paul's done and this lady's done. We should dream. But at the end of the day, I guess it would turn to the council and others to find plausible financial models to fit the need and the ability to make it happen. But I think in the short run, you know, I have 4 kids, well, 5 actually. But, and they want to buy a house. They don't have the downstroke to buy a house, so they go into an apartment. The mayor's exactly right when he says that, Mr. Wood, when he says that's exactly right. They go to an apartment and the apartment payments are like a mortgage payment. except you can't deduct it. So it's one hell of a circle. And I don't have any ideas beyond that, sir, but just wanted to express that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners? Okay, I want to thank everybody for their participation tonight. I thought everybody did an outstanding job as you had in every meeting I've been at. I know this was a daunting task, but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, that's a good word. Phrase rather. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.